Is the screen visible and voice audible, please? Yeah. So, servlet technology required content I have delivered. I cannot say that completely delivered because that much not required now. JSP also, JSP outdated technology because of Angular and one more framework. Okay. And JDBC maximum given, almost given. One topic is there, connection pooling and callable statement. Of course, I have explained MVC architecture also. One example also we have done. Day one of the batch, whatever I promised, almost all I tried to cover. Servlet technology, idea you should have in your lifetime in a project, direct servlet coding you will not do. You will not do. But Spring MVC understanding, okay, server side programming understanding sake you have to know. That's all. JSP already outdated. JDBC, that knowledge will help you how database operations are performed. Direct JDBC also almost not used in the industry. Okay. ORM used. Okay. Either Hibernate or JPA used or Spring JDBC. Okay. Data JPA. There are different ways, please. Direct JDBC coding in any project you will not see. But learning JDBC will give you an idea for high-end way of performing database operations. Moral of the story is that whatever you learned, these three, none of them directly used in real-time projects. But you need not be upset. You need not be upset that we wasted your 45 days of time. No, no. It will act as a base for you for learning in a matured way, high end. For example, Spring Boot, microservices. When you are learning this, okay, and web services, okay, stateless, I mean, whatever, right? RESTful web services, those are the high-end things. When you are learning those high-end things, whatever I taught you under the name called Advanced Java, it will definitely help you as a base. If you are a fresher, okay, not working, then in Java interview, nobody will ask you Spring Boot questions or microservices questions. They will ask you on what do you know about MVC, JSP lifecycle, servlet lifecycle, connection. What do you know about result set? Prepared statement. If you are a fresher, directly those questions will be asked in the job interview. Okay, so that's all. Please don't leave here. Okay, and high-end form of Java also you must learn. But believe me, you are very much eligible now. You can enjoy the high-end classes with this base. That much I can tell you, please. Okay. Now, what is the limitation of driver manager? Tell me, what does driver manager do for you? Driver manager is a connection factory. That is, it provides database connections to Java components. So, role of driver manager is providing connections to Java objects. That's all. It is called connection factory. But in real-time Java projects, driver manager is not at all used. Driver manager is not at all used, please. Okay. Then what is used? That only we are going to learn. Okay. Driver manager has the following limitations or disadvantages. Okay. So driver manager having some drawbacks. Yeah. Driver manager has some drawbacks. Number one, performance compromise in providing the database connection. Bad performance. What is the meaning? Let me explain. Assume this is some Java component. Means some Java object. It is database server, assume. In the Java program, I mean in the Java component, we write driver manager dot get connection. When this line is executed, at that time, TCP IP socket connection is created. When we need the connection, at that time, socket connection, TCP/IP socket connection is created. At the time of connection requirement, creating the connection will be a performance problem, because establishing the connection when the customer requesting for some operation, at that time socket connection creation is time consuming affair. It may not take minutes, few seconds only, but no, that is lag time only for a website. So driver manager provided connection, okay, it will not provide connection faster. Okay, in a fraction of second, connection should be provided to Java object. But driver manager given connection, time consuming connection. That is why performance bad. Yeah. Connections are not reusable and thereby not cost effective. Not cost effective. Actually, it is a very high-end discussion. At student level, you may not digest it also. Connections are not reusable and thereby not cost effective. What is the meaning? Try to understand. In my project, 100 Java objects at 100 places, database connection required. Assume 100 places, database connection required in the entire project. If you say driver manager dot get connection, connection is created, that is returned also. Connection is equal to driver manager. Whatever connection given to this one Java object, it cannot be reused by another object. Unfortunately, at the same time, all 100 objects need database connection. 100 connections are to be created. What is the problem? 100 connections can be created, na? No, no, no. You know what will happen? Database licensing. Okay. Database licensing will be in few tens of lakhs of rupees. Even it may be sometimes crores also. For 10 connections, they may charge, okay, $10,000. Okay. So please try to understand, for 100 simultaneous connections, 100 users connection license if required, na, you know what will happen? It will cost few crores of rupees. Okay. So that is the major problem. I think you may not be able to that much understand what am I saying, but try. When you go to high-end classes, you may be knowing. So tell me, what is one problem of driver manager? Performance problem. User waiting time will increase. When user trying to log in, database connection required. In the background, driver manager dot get connection. At that time, establishing TCP/IP socket connection time consuming. Therefore, user waiting period will be more. They say that this website is not faster, complaints will come. That is the problem. Second problem, okay, one connection of Java object cannot be used by other Java object of the project. If 100 Java components of the project need connections, okay, database licensing policy, 100 connections sake license to be taken. Generally 5 licenses, 10 connection licenses they will give. 10 licenses sometimes may cost 50 lakhs also, believe me. 100 connections license taking, it is very, very, very costly affair. And connection acquiring code is not secure. We are exposing in Java, you are exposing what is the username, what is the password to connect to database server. We are exposing in the arguments. Second argument, third argument of get connection method, we have to give the username password. No. In Java code, never ever database credentials, usernames and passwords should not be exposed. Only database administrators should be knowing usernames and passwords to the database. But unfortunately, okay, if you are using driver manager for get connection method, that username, password and all should be exposed. Therefore, security compromise also. Fourth one, it is further beyond your reach. Does not support distributed transactions. Distributed transaction. It is very, 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 very high-end topic. When you learn high-end after advanced Java, you will come to know what is the meaning of this. But rough idea I can give. For example, funds transfer you are doing from one account to another account. One account is in one database, another account is another database. It means with a single connection, funds transfer may not be possible. It means multiple connections are involved in a single transaction. That is called distributed transaction. Driver manager provided connection, okay, with the single database operations only it can support. But practically think, source account may be in one database, target account may be in another database. Okay, multiple databases, different connections in a single transaction, if it is involved, it is known as distributed transaction. Driver manager provided connections do not support distributed transactions. Because of all these reasons, okay, performance problem, money problem, security problem, distributed transactions cannot be supported. It means when you are doing funds transfer, source account and target account should be in the same bank will be the limitation. No. Generally, source account and target account, why it should be in the same bank? If you use a driver manager, it becomes that limitation. So because of security, because of financial problem, because of performance problem, in real-time Java projects, which is not used, driver manager is not used. Then what is the alternative? What is the alternative for this? Okay. In real-time Java projects, Java X dot SQL dot data source is used as connection factory. Please remember, for any Java component, for any Java code, if you want connection, there are two providers. One is driver manager, another is data source. So driver manager dot get connection will give the connection to the Java code. Data source dot get connection. So tell me, what are the similarities between driver manager and data source? What are the similarities? Both are connection factories only. Both are meant for providing database connection to Java programs. Okay. Both have get connection method only. Both have get connection method only. Driver manager dot get connection will provide the database connection. Data source also having get connection method only. So driver manager is the connection provider. Data source also connection provider. That is similarity. Data source provided connection, okay, performance is not compromised. If you ask the data source, hello data source, provide me connection in a fraction of second, okay, 0.00001 seconds, okay, fraction of seconds, micro if not nanoseconds, right? Connection will be provided. So performance is not bad. Connections are reusable. What is the meaning of reusable? It means if you are using data source for connection, okay, and license is taken for 10 connections only, pay for 10 connections. But in 100 Java components, I need connection. If you ask the data source to provide the connection, what it will do, out of these 10, for a fraction of second, it will give the connection. Java component uses the connection and says connection dot close. Sorry, driver manager given connection. If you say driver manager dot given connection, if you say connection dot close, socket connection is closed. But data source given connection, if you say connection dot close, connection is not closed. It will be reused by other component. Even 100 places you need database connection with less number of connection license, it will serve the connection requirements. It means data source given connectivity is cost effective, performance wise no problem. Connection acquiring code is secure. How? DS dot get connection If you are asking data source to provide the connection, if you are asking data source to provide the connection, get connection method is a zero argument method. It will not take database address. It will not take username. It will not take password. Actually, Java professional should not be knowing whereabouts of the database. In which room of the company database server running also we need not know. Forget about username, password. Database administrator, okay, will give certain details to web server administrator. In the background somewhere, the connection details are configured. They are not exposed to Java professionals. Which driver you are using, what is the database address, what is the username or password, those details are never exposed if you use data source for connectivity. It means connection getting code is secure. Data source style of getting the connection is performance wise the best, cost effective, secure. It provides support for distributed transaction. Means source account in funds transfer may be in one DBMS, target account may be in another DBMS, but still transaction can be supported. So data, what is data source? Connection factory, similar to driver manager only. It also has get connection method only. It also provides connections to the Java components. But what are the benefits? All the limitations of driver manager are addressed using data source. And data source will provide pooled connections. Pooled connections. Now comes the concept called connection pooling. Okay, very good. Oh, so in high-end courses, okay, and in real-time Java projects, definitely database connection is required, but driver manager is never used, which is used data source. Even today, in Java projects, even in company also, even in high-end Java class also, after advanced Java, if you learn JPA or Hibernate or Spring JPA or Spring Data, there are 6, 7 styles of communicating with database. Every time they use a data source only. Therefore, it is not an outdated concept. Driver manager is an outdated concept, but data source is current trend. But what you have to know is details, driver details, database server address, username, password. They are not exposed to Java professionals. All are hidden from you. Okay, fine. Next question is, what is a connection pool? What is a connection pool? Now coming to the discussion, what is a connection pool? A group of connections. Yeah. A collection of pre-created database connections. Where they are kept? They are kept in cache memory for use and reuse. So many things are there in this place. Okay. Try to understand what is the meaning of that. Pre-created connections. Driver manager will provide when connection is required, at that time only it creates. But what is a connection pool? A group of pre-created connections. What is the meaning of pre? Pre means before. Before. No customer request came in advance. As soon as our project is deployed, I mean our application is deployed, at the time of deployment only, depending upon the licensing, say for example, 10 connections are created in advance. So it is a connection pool. It is a connection pool. What is a connection pool? A group of connections. Pre-created means not when required they are created. Before our Java code requirement only, as soon as our application is deployed into the server, at that time, in advance, these connections are created. So tell me, what is connection pool? A group of pre-created connections. Very good. Assume 10. Why I have drawn 10 here? Because license is for 10. License is for 10. Where they are kept? In the cache memory. Okay, very good. Assume 100 Java components are there. All these 100 Java components need the connection. Assume like. Okay. So, all these are Java components. Java component 1, Java component 2, means at 100 places, I need Java component 99, okay, Java component 100. 100 Java objects need connection. Tell me how Java component will get the pooled connection. How it will get the pooled connection. I will tell you how it will get, but somehow Java component 1 got the connection. Connection only is equal to, what is the method? Get connection. Yeah. In place of driver manager, we use data source. How to use, I will tell you. So, data source dot get connection, if you say na, tell me, look at this line of code. Any database address used? Any username, any password? No. That's why it is secure. Now, through data source, whatever connection we got, that connection is picked from the cache memory. At that time, TCP/IP socket connection is not created. At the time of requirement, socket connection is not created. Already created in advance. So now tell me, out of this pre-created 10 connection objects, one connection is given to Java component. It will use it. It will use it for a fraction of second. After using, what does it say? Connection dot close. When connection dot close, very important. If it is driver manager dot connection got the connection, if you say close, TCP/IP socket connection is closed. But data source given connection is a pooled connection. Na? If you say connection dot close, that connection is sent back to the pool. Sent back to the pool. Original connection with the database is not closed. So that same connection, another Java component can use it. That is why a group of pre-created connections kept in cache memory for use and reuse. Not only one component can use it. As soon as the usage is over, the moment we say connection dot close, TCP/IP socket connection with database is not closed. That connection is submitted to the cache memory, to the pool like. A group of pre-created connections. Pre means before. What before? Before my client requires it. Before my Java object needs the connection. In advance, they are created. How many created? Depends upon the licensing. If you have a license for 5 or license for 10, without paying any extra, within single license, how many connections allowed? Those many we create. Use and reuse. But how many places I need connections? 100 places. Believe me, if 10 connections are created, 500 Java components also it can be served. Reason is, its requirement is a fraction of a second. One component gets the connection from cache memory, that is pool, uses it and submits back to the pool. So that same connection can be reused by another component. So that is what reusability is all about. Okay, fine. So is nothing but a connection pool. So before created, they are kept in cache memory. What is connection pooling? The mechanism of creating the connection pool and providing pooled connections to application components means Java components. Application components means Java components is nothing but connection pooling. Connection pooling is a mechanism. In that mechanism, we create a cache of connections and provide them to the Java objects. Good. So this diagram you have to be so this diagram you should take a snapshot. I will not, I cannot share you that. If you see this diagram is how connection pool works, is the diagram. This diagram I cannot share, please. Therefore, my suggestion is take the snapshot of this diagram and in the notes, wherever diagram is mentioned, this diagram you have to draw in the notes, if at all you have the habit of writing the notes. Those who write notes physically only will get the job. In my computer it is there, I downloaded, the file is there. Lifetime you will not get the job, mother promise. Hard copy of the notes you have to write. Remaining up to you, please. So look at this. First, what is created? Administrators only will do this. We are no way concerned which driver, which database address, which username, which password. Those details are not given to the programmers. We don't know. Creating the connection pool, configuring the connection pool, administrator's duty, not the Java developer's duty. First, remember that point. Okay. Tell me, what is created? Connection pool is first created. Who will create? Server administrators. Container administrators create the connection pool. They will configure. So that container means web server administrator only knows the address of the database server, which driver using, and what is the username, what is the password to connect to the database. Who only knows? That web server administrator only knows. Tomcat server administrator, WebLogic server administrator, WebSphere administrator. It is not Java programmer's duty at all, believe me. You need not know, you will not know also. Finished. So, through administration, they will create the connection pool. Now tell me, who needs the pooled connection? My Java program needs the pooled connection. Okay, my Java application needs the pooled connection. Sorry, directly our Java component cannot communicate with the connection pool. Okay, so you know what is the point? This connection pool is represented by one Java object called data source. When connection pool is configured, okay, Java X dot SQL dot data source. Tell me what is data source? Object-oriented representation of connection pool. When that web server administrator configured the connection pool, you know what will happen in the background? Specified number of connections are created in advance. They are kept in cache memory. But Java programs need those connections. So Java programmers' sake, in the background, one object is created. One object is created. What is that object? Data source object. This data source object registered with a special service known as naming service. It is a bit high-end topic only, please. We doing simple, we do nothing. Programmer doing is nothing, but all administration only happens in the background. So in another 10 minutes, I hope I can convey you total concept clearly. Be patient and listen. Who configures the connection pool in the server? Web server administrator. Technically speaking, web container administrator. How to configure? I am not administrator. Why should I know? I need not know. I will not know. I am not a fool to know. If I want to become a server administrator, then I would have known. As simple as that. The way connection pool configured in Tomcat is different. The way connection pool configured in WebLogic different. The way it is configured in WebSphere different. Okay. Once it is configured with that particular database, that particular driver will create the set of connections. How many connections creation also, they have options to mention. Kept in cache memory. Okay, kept in cache memory. But directly Java code cannot talk to connection pool. Na? To represent that connection pool, one special object is created. That is called data source. What is data source? Object-oriented representation of connection pool is nothing but a data source. Okay. What are the things that happen in the background? Once the container means Tomcat or WebLogic or WebSphere. Okay. Once the container Tomcat, WebLogic or WebSphere or JBoss, Wildfly, so many are there like. JBoss was old name, it is called Wildfly now. Once the container administrator, people call server administrator, configures the connection pool. What is the meaning of configuring the connection pool? Specifying which driver to which database address, with what username, with what password, how many connections to create. All those things are specified in the server. Who will do? Who will not do? Java programmer will never do this. Administrator will do. Okay, fine. Connection pool is created. Means those many, say 10 connections are created, kept in cache memory. So this is the first thing what happens. Yeah. Good. Object-oriented representation of connection pool. Tomorrow also we have the class, please. I thought today only callable statement I can complete, I thought. Callable statement cannot be completed today. Okay, today only connection pooling idea I can give. So tomorrow callable statement I will teach. Object-oriented representation of connection pool is nothing but javax dot sql dot data source object. Data source object is registered with naming service that runs within the server. Sir, we are not understand. It's not your duty. Don't worry. Tell me first what happens? Connection pool created. Next, what happens? Data source object created. This data source object is registered with which service? Naming service. Tomcat server, WebLogic server, WebSphere server. When they are running, in the background, what will be running? Naming service will be running. This data source object is registered with the naming service with some name. With some name. With some name. I know I'm a bit more repeating, but mandatory, please. Okay, fine. So the moment server administrator did some configuration, three things happen in the background. Number one, some 10 connections are created in advance, kept in cache memory. First thing is over. Second thing, data source object, okay, is created and registered with a special service called naming service, JNDI naming service. Okay, Java naming and directory interface. It is a high-end concept. So this data source object is registered with naming service. With what name? Some name. I have given here what example? MyDS. So now database details, username, password, those details are never given to the Java programmers. Server administrator will give only what? Will give only what? The name with which data source is registered with the naming service. That name is given. That's all. Fine. Now look at the diagram. What is arrow number 1? What is arrow number 1? You know what is arrow number 1? Java program connects to naming service. Connects to naming service. Java component that needs a pooled connection should perform the following things. Number one, connect to the naming service. Connect to naming service. How to connect? Some code will be there. Okay. Initial context IC is equal to new initial context. Tell me, connecting to whom? Connecting to naming service. Step 2. Perform lookup for data source object. How? IC dot lookup. And with what name it is registered? I told, name MyDS. Java programmer knows only one thing. With what name data source is registered, we know, we need to know, that's all. Say my DS. What does this lookup method do? What does it do? Okay, it returns object type. We typecast with data source. Now, data source. Finished. Now tell me, in the Java program, look at the arrow numbers. Arrow numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4. What they are? Number 1, Java program connects to the naming service. How to connect? Initial context IC is equal to new initial context. Then next what? It should get the reference of the data source object because it represents the connection pool. How? By calling which method? Lookup method. With what name that data source is registered with naming service, that name administrator will provide. Using that name, you perform lookup. But thank God, if it is Spring, everything Spring only nowadays in high-end Java. In Spring, you need not do these two things. Those who are attending Spring, any of you, there is one concept called IOC, inversion of control. That is called dependency injection. Through IOC, instead of we look up for data source will be injected into Java object. It means Spring framework. In a Spring project, these two things you need not do. You need not do these two things. Automatically, Spring framework only will give data source reference to Java object. Happy now? You need not write this first line and second line of code. Good. Next, what to do? Next, what to do? Third thing, observe the diagram. What is the story here? What is arrow number 2? You know what is arrow number 2? Okay. Once we got the data source object, say connection is equal to data source dot get connection. Over. Concept is over. Java program, instead of saying driver manager dot get connection, it is asking whom for connection. It is asking data source for connection. That is the second line. It means first duty of the Java program is get the data source reference. Arrow number 2, ds dot get connection. What is arrow number 3? Data source will pick the connection from the pool. Arrow number 4, data source gives the pooled connection to the Java program. Once pooled connection came to the Java program, you will perform all the CRUD operations and finally what you say, connection dot close. Really connection is not closed. Connection is submitted back to connection pool. Connected to the, submitted to the pool link. It is a bit high end only, digesting, I know. Any questions from your side? Don't think class is over. 5 minutes I may teach again. Any questions from your side? How much you understood? My understanding sake I am asking. Any question from your side regarding connection pool?
Connection pool is created by database administrators, right? Not by any
No,
program.
connection pool is not created by database administrator. That password of the DBMS, address of the DBMS, those things are given by database administrator to web server administrator. Who will not create connection pool? Database administrator will not create the connection pool. database password, database connection string, username, credentials, and those details only database administrator will give to web server administrator. Connection pool creation is whose duty? Tomcat server administrator or WebLogic server administrator. Point is clear, sir?
Yes, sir.
Now, what happens in the background? Once Tomcat server administrator configured the connection pool, what are the things happening in the background? Please answer. Some connections are created, kept in the cache memory. Data source object is registered with naming service with some name. This name, Tomcat administrator will tell the Java professionals. That's all. That's all. Now, what is the Java professionals' duty? Now, what is Java professionals' duty? Not DNS, sir. Somebody is saying DNS. No, DNS is not that. So, what is Java programmer's duty? You know, get the connection factory. Look up for the connection factory means connect to naming service, use this name MyDS, and get the data source reference. After getting the reference, call the get connection. Data source dot get connection, the moment we call, data source given connection is a pooled connection. That's it. But thank God, if it is a Spring project, now, if it is a Spring project, okay, observe. Public class account DAO, one separate class will be there. Okay, data source DS. Data source DS. Now I want some method. Okay, find account or something. Some method is there. Tell me, I need here database connection. One Java method. Don't worry. Assume when you attend Spring, you will know. Tell me, inside this method, I want a database connection. Can you help me how to do it? If it is not Spring, you know what you have to do? Initial context IC is equal to new initial context. After that, data source DS is equal to data source IC dot lookup. IC dot lookup. Web server administrator told me with that name it is registered. That's all. Now you write connection con is equal to ds dot get connection. So connecting to the naming service, 48th line, acquiring, getting the reference of data source object, asking the data source to give the connection, no username, no password, no details, but we got the connection. It is a pooled connection. It is a pooled connection. But thank God, if you are using Spring, these two lines not required. These two lines not required. Okay, Spring IOC container will inject, that is called dependency injection, automatically will give the object of the data source and reference is available to you. Now tell me, is required to perform JNDI lookup? At least one of two are you are learning Spring, I hope. Okay, if at all learning, okay. So once upon a time, when Spring was not there, every time Java program was doing lookup. Okay, connect to naming service, get the reference. Spring, what it did, you know? It reversed that. It reversed it. IOC, inversion of control. Instead of you call me, I will call you and I will give you the data source. So who gives data source to who? Spring framework automatically gives data source to our Java component. Therefore, what you need not do? Connecting to the naming source, naming service not required. Performing lookup is not required. That lookup is reversed. Inversion of control. What is inverted? Java component asking the naming service to give the reference is reversed. It only give you automatically. That concept is called IOC concept. Okay, so simple. You write data source reference here. Spring framework will give you the object. That's all, very simple. You need connection, call it ds.get connection, you will get the connection. It is a pooled connection. Remaining prepared statement creation, all those same story, please, no difference. Last ps dot close, then what? On dot close. Sorry, really socket connection is not closed. Again, the connection is submitted back to the pool so that another Java component will use that. Okay. Fine. Uh, my teaching part is over for today. If you want, you can log out. But those who want to ask the questions on this topic, you can ask.
Good evening, sir. Manas here.
Good evening.
Each connection can handle how many requests, sir? Is there any limitation?
What?
Each connection, how much request it can handle, sir? I don't know whether my question is correct or not.
Not correct, not like that. You're asking license is for 10 connections, assume. Okay. Then administrator configured the connection pool size as 10. As soon as our project is deployed, how many socket connections are created with DBMS? 10 connections. In advance, they are created, kept in the cache memory. At how many places we need connection? At 100 places or 1000 places required. Okay. So one connection, how many? There is no decision link. Because it is cached object, fast it will pick up, use it and again submit it back like. One connection can handle 10 requirements kind of calculation, nowhere will be there. Are you getting, sir, what I said?
Yes.
That's it.
Bit confusion, but
No. Now it is clear or not? No, sir. How many connections are created?
10 connections are created.
10 created, kept in cache memory.
Okay.
In my project, at 100 places connection required. But available connections, how many? 10 only.
10.
Customer request came, submitted to the website. One request came. Our Java object getting the pooled connection, using it in a fraction of second and again submitting to the pool. In the meantime, another requirement comes again. Sharing, pooling, carpooling concept is there, na, like that.
Yes. Okay.
Got the point?
Yes, sir.
If at all became busy, it may be waited, please. That is very rare case. Like with less number of resources, more can be served, please.
Okay. Okay, got it.
Yes, sir. Any more questions? Yeah. So it seems no more questions. I am signing off.